Welcome, my name's Chris Davis. I am a certified ketogenic carnivore nutrition coach, and today I just wanted to provide some insight, some information for you should you choose to consume plant products. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, I encourage you to watch them. I try to be as truthful as I can. I myself am less than 5% carbohydrate. I do consume some romaine lettuce, but that's about it. But if you're one of those people that you want to be low carb keto, to be less than 50 grams of carbs a day, then hopefully this will help you out. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so the first thing I wanted to go over is they keep talking about the phytate, phytonutrients, all this great stuff that helps having plant products in your diet, even though there's no required carbohydrates in order to live. So these are called non-essentials. And so I thought, what about the anti-nutrients? Because no one seems to talk about that, right? People want to pretend that eating plant products is all sunshine and roses and there's nothing negative about them. And so I found this chart and I thought, I'm going to share some of the information that I came across. And so the first thing is, right, the phytates and whole grains interferes with mineral absorption. And so, you might want to be careful of that, right? If you're anemic, you already have an iron problem. I don't think you want to make it worse. It goes into oxalates, which, again, there's can't remember the year now. I want to say it was the 1940s. There was about 1,500 kids in a school in Europe that got sick because they had sorrel soup and there was oxalate poisoning happened. And so again, right, they talk about spinach. Oh, it's a superfood, but it can bind calcium and reduce its absorption. So, be careful of that. And so you can just take a minute, pause this, look at everything. I'm not going to go over everything on every chart, but I just want to make you aware of some things. And so, apologize, I've got a puppy here that's not feeling very good, so she's going to help me make the video. So one of the things I found fascinating about this chart, right? So you have the animal-based, plant-based, and then the scientific community view, which I always find fascinating. So that it talks about the individual metabolic function, right? And there says they're both sustainable. And I don't buy that because, again, I'm not going to promote vegan, vegetarian. I just don't think that's the way we were designed. And then it talks about fiber and gut health. Again, nothing's been proven that you require fiber where carbohydrates aren't required for life. Fiber isn't either. And then, of course, it says, plant-based is superior for gut physiology. That's not proven either. I remember seeing, and I need to find it, it was a study where they actually checked the microbiome of straight carnivores, and they had a more diverse microbiome than omnivores. So this obviously is like my favorite line here is the chronic disease risk, right? Because they talk about the saturated fat and cholesterol. Again, in the 1950s, they dispelled that. They showed that dietary cholesterol and saturated fat did not change blood serum cholesterol. And actually, blood cholesterol is crucial for brain function and a lot of the other functions in our body. But then this is the interesting part. It talks about the plant-based, says it's associated reduced risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. That's not been proven, right? Again, this is these associations. They're from observational studies asking people what they ate. And actually what they're finding is that sugar, right, is the culprit, which you're not getting sugar if you're animal-based. And then it says that plant-based offers greater protection. That's not proven either, right? But again, it's the scientific community view. So what does that tell you? You've got a bunch of vegan vegetarians conducting the research, saying, yeah, animals, don't eat them, they're bad for you. Really? There's nothing that shows that we are designed to be plant-based. Nothing. We're not. We are not designed to be plant-based. Think 200 years before refrigeration. Right? Just think about that. What were you eating during the winter? Because I can tell you here in Idaho, you weren't eating plant foods in the winter. in Idaho. But now we have refrigeration. We have all supplementation and pills and every other damn thing that has skewed the narrative. And then planetary health, extremely high carbon land and water footprint. That is a bunch of made up bullshit. I've been researching into that, and they're speculating what they think a cattle drinks as far as water consumption. They're speculating as far as the land, right? For example, the cattle that range on the hill above us, you can't farm that, right? You cannot farm that. There's zero way of farming that. But the cows can walk on it, right? They can walk those hillsides and they can eat the grains and the natural grass that's up there, and it works for them. And then the significantly low water carbon land foot. Have you seen how much water it takes to produce almonds? Even based on their own estimates, it takes more water to produce almonds than it does to raise a cow, right? If you took pound for pound, it's not even close, right? But they don't want to count almonds. They always want to talk about avocados, right? Well, avocados only take X percentage compared to a cow. Yeah, but you're guessing, right? You're guessing on how much, especially that open range, free range cattle is actually consuming. And then talking about plant-based is essential for global sustainability. That's not proven either. It might be the scientific community view, but it is not proven because we need the cattle, right? We need the cattle to shit on the fucking land so that way it can regenerate. Right? Otherwise, it's all going to go to dust. It's not going to have any nutrients in it. We need the cattle to go like they do here, right? We have regenerative farming here where they grow the crops and then the cattle go in and they graze and shit and piss all over the ground, and then they go and they rake it, right? They don't till it, they rake it, and then they plant. And so cows are part of the ecosystem. So again, that's just a bunch of crap there. So then I wanted to talk about this other chart that I found, diseases caused by high oxalate intake. And so again, veggies aren't all sunshine and roses, right? You have kidney stones, kidney damage, hyperoxaluria. I'm sure I screwed that up. And that's the oxalate levels in the urine, right? Metabolic bone disease, right? That can be a problem. Gastrointestinal issues. No kidding, right? I can tell you on the days that I eat lettuce and the days that I don't eat lettuce, right? I don't have the gas and the bloating if I skip the lettuce and just stay straight carnivore. So I actually found that interesting. They did talk about common sources of dietary oxalates, right? Spinach, rhubarb, nuts, and certain grains. And so just be wary. If you feel like you just have to have that in your diet, understand what the problem is. And so then I found this chart of actual oxalate content. Now, granted, this is per 100 grams. In order to get nutrients out of these, you would have to eat a lot more than 100 grams. But look, again, you got spinach, rhubarb, beet greens, Swiss chard, kale, right? Which so tired about hearing how healthy kale is. It's nasty. And then it goes all the way down to carrots, right? Talks about the high oxalate foods, moderate to low. Again, I don't want to chance it, so I'm just not going to. So then it made me think, okay, well, what veggies or plants, that we consume are found in nature versus man-made? So, because I do believe this is something else that you do need to take into consideration, right? So they talk about wild berries, edible greens, herbs, nuts, and mushrooms are all natural plants, right? And then it talks about man-made plants, which are common fruits, vegetables. They talk about carrots, tomatoes, and broccoli, grains, legumes, and cultivated herbs. And so then I thought, okay, well, looking at that, okay, they broke down, and I decided to look at cultivated plants versus crossbred plants, because when you look at it, right, you're not going to go into nature, find cauliflower, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts. You're just not going to. That's a crossbred vegetables made from wild cabbage. And so I don't promote any of those, right? So then I said, okay, well, what are the cultivated plants, right? So they go into fruits, veggies. I would stay away from potatoes. I have severe outbreaks of blisters on my foot from potatoes. Grains, legumes, but then it also talks about the hybrid fruits, right, in the crossbred, the Brussels sprouts, right, from kale, right, different forms of corn, different forms of tomatoes. And so just understand that if you are going to choose to put these in your diet, you need to look at this, right? And only you can decide, right? Only you can decide and say, you know what? I know that Brussels sprouts are estimated to have 134 known carcinogens in them, but I'm going to eat them anyways, right? I wouldn't, but you do you, boo. And so just understand that having plants in your diet is not all sunshine and roses, right? It's not required. It's not necessary. You don't have to have it for life. But if you can tolerate it, if you don't get the bloating and the gas and the intestinal distress and the tiredness and every other thing that goes along with eating carbohydrates, you know, I don't see a problem with you having, 50 grams a day of carbs. Or some people can actually tolerate up to 100 grams of carbs. But just understand it comes at a price. And you got to see what that price is. Because that's where the individuality comes in, right? I believe for the most part, we are pretty the same. Right? Koalas have a specific way of eating. Camels have a specific way of eating. Monkeys, zebras, you name it, right? They all have specific foods that they eat. So I don't know why us humans think we're so damn special that we can be somewhere between vegan and carnivore. Like, that's not how we're designed, right? We can eat plant matter, but we don't have to live. So there's your food for thought. So with that, I hope you learned something. I hope you make a good, informed decision that's right for you. I hope that you choose to be animal-based, low-carb, ketogenic for life, like I've decided. With that, I wish you a blessed day.